All right, so Dr. Alex Dold, welcome to the Britlit Book Club. Glad you're here. Do you want to just give us a little bit of a quick bio?
I say about myself that I'm a literary scholar and historian. So my first few degrees at the uni were all about literature, and then I branched out into history, and now I get to do both, which is really fun. I am currently the only person in the world that has a PhD in the Outlander novels. In all the ones that have been published so far, but there's much more academic research coming up, so it's really exciting to see that. But for now, I get to say I'm the only one. And yeah, it's really exciting to go to different places and speak to different people because, yeah, I love what I do and I want to share all my knowledge.
Love that. Okay, so you're called Doctor of Outlander, like you said, which is honestly one of the best titles I've ever heard. And just take us back to the beginning. Like, how does a girl from Germany end up becoming a PhD historian specializing in American authors' novel about Scotland?
I love how you phrased the question because it is quite complicated. I'm always in between different things. So obviously the author is American. Then I live in Scotland, but I am from Germany. I'm a historian, but I'm also a literary scholar. So I feel like I'm kind of branching out in all the directions. Um, the PhD came about by me doing a semester abroad in Scotland. So I went to university in Bonn in Germany, and they had an Erasmus scholarship for a semester abroad. And I thought, if they give me money to go abroad, why not try and use it? And the only options I had for English speaking countries were either England or Scotland. Now that I live in Scotland, I'm very glad I've never picked England because famously we hate the English. So it was just by chance Inverness College that at the time was available for me to go to without any big issues or any big visa things to sort. The UK was still a member of the EU at the time, so I literally packed my bags, showed up to uni, lived on campus, and had like the best time of my life. I will say that I was probably more focused on making friends, meeting people, um,
As one does in
and
college.
I know that was the whole point. I was,
Yes.
I think, 23, 24, something like that. And I lived in a flat with five other people, most of us kind of international students, and went to class. I think I had 3 lessons per week or something, which really doesn't sound a lot, but there was a lot of reading surrounding it. So I spent my time when I wasn't out partying with my friends. I would explore kind of the Highlands and then like on the side do a little bit of reading. Hopefully my parents aren't hearing this. Like I did end up, I got my marks that I could then use for my German degree. And this semester, I really enjoyed kind of exploring other kind of literature than what I would do in Germany because there's quite a rigorous system there. And they kind of suggest what you should be writing about. And then I thought, I'm in a different country. Let me just try out whatever I want to write about. So I wrote an essay about a skit by Michael McIntyre, where he talks about the invention of the Scottish kilt as basically as opposite as possible to the English. I had a lot of fun watching the skit, analysing it and writing about it. And Professor at the time really enjoyed it. And I was like, right, I'm going to push this a bit further and I'll write about Outlander, which I had just watched with my dad before coming to Scotland. So anybody that has seen Outlander will know that watching it with your dad is a bit awkward when the sex scenes come up. But we made our way through it. And then moving into my flat with all my flatmates, one of them said, "Oh, Outlander, I'm in that. Like, I'm one of the people that's in the second season." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy. Like, who are you? Who was there when you were filming? Like, have you met Sam Heughan? Have you done this? Have you done that?" And he couldn't remember a thing. And it was
What?
really frustrating. And he was like, "No, I've never seen this guy." Like, he'd not watched it himself. It turned
Oh my
out that
goodness.
he was an extra. Do you know when young Ian gets abducted of that
Yes.
island in the second season? So he's one of the
Yes.
people rowing the boat.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like you can't. I don't. He doesn't even know what person he is. It's very far away. But I thought this was kind of leading me towards I should write an essay about this.
Love
I
it.
did about tartan and the representation of identity in Outlander and how they use it to kind of show who's Scottish and who's not. Again, got a good mark for it, thankfully. And Went back home to Germany and was like, that's what I'm going to write my master's thesis about. And I was really into it. I wrote it. I got a really good mark, which I wasn't expecting that they would enjoy it as much. And I got a comment from my supervisor saying that she really enjoyed how I did lots of historical analysis. And I didn't know that you could just work interdisciplinary like this. I thought it had to be history or literature. That was kind of like my first brush with it. I sent that master's thesis to the professor or like the lecturer in Scotland. And he sent me a message back and said, if you ever want to do a PhD in Scotland, hit me up. And I was like, whoa.
Yes.
Right? Like from what I knew about like the PhD programs, you don't just get it offered. Like you have to apply, you have to find your supervisors, you have to find funding and everything. And I was just like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And he was like, right, cool. You can start as soon as September or October. That was in May. So I was like, I said to my family, I'm going to move to Scotland. We were still in the EU at the time, so it was easy enough for me to do. I packed my life into like 2 suitcases, left lots of boxes at my parents' house, and they were like, well, when you come back? And I was like, not sure if I'm going to come back. We're at like 7 years later now, and I'm still here. Amazing. So it's really been this like big thing. I moved to the Highlands of Scotland, an hour north of Inverness, kind of the middle of nowhere. If you don't have a car, you can't go anywhere. It was amazing. And then the pandemic hit. So my PhD research that was going to be into Outlander fans and how they relate to the country got kind of pushed to the side and I couldn't really do it anymore. And then I realized the thing that I'm actually passionate about is shouting into people's faces, Outlander is important. And that's kind of become the message of my whole thesis. Obviously, you have to academically explain it. So I do say few reasons why, but basically this is me saying like, dear traditional historians and dear literary scholars, I don't like that you don't like Outlander, and here's why I think it is good.
I love that you've connected those two worlds, like your literature background and your history background, and kind of put those two passions into one. I think that's really amazing. I kind of have a funny Outlander you're saying you're watching it with your dad and it's awkward. So my first introduction to Outlander was my grandma, who I actually lived in Scotland with when I was little. I was like 9, 10. She was working on her PhD in British literature. And probably a few more years later, she moved back to the States and I would drive her. She had really bad arthritis, so she couldn't drive. So I would drive her from Southern California to Northern California to visit her mom, or my great grandma. And we would listen to the Outlander audiobooks on our drives. And I still remember, like getting to those like saucy bits in the books and her being like, fast forward, fast forward. You're listening with your elderly grandma. So that was my introduction to Outlander. Just after living in Scotland with my grandma and then listening to Outlander with her, that was just, it kind of holds a special place in my heart. And I'm watching the last season of Outlander very slowly right now because I'm just like sad that this whole, I've read all the books and watched all of the seasons, and it's like this is like kind of coming to a close. But I'm ending it with like a book club tour to Scotland. So
right, excellent. That's the best way to do it. And we have one more book to come out, right? So another about 1,000 pages to go.
Yes. Do you think they're going to do another season after that?
I don't think they will. I think there might be, depending on how they're ending this season. Obviously, if everybody dies, there won't be even a possibility to do that.
Right.
But if Jamie and Claire do survive, I think there's potential for a film maybe that they might do. But I think it's more likely that they're going to do more spin-off series. So Lord John obviously lends itself as a new series. And I think David has said that he's very interested in playing Lord John Grey for something like that.
Okay, that'll be amazing. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But I'm just like not ready to close that chapter of my life. So I'll be happy if it continues. Okay, you're based in Scotland. You said you live an hour outside of Inverness.
I used to. I'm now in Glasgow.
Oh, now you're in Glasgow. Okay. You've been leading walking tours for years. How much did living in the Highlands shape the way that you read and research Outlander?
Yeah, first moving to an hour north of Inverness near a place called Tain, where Glenmorangie whiskey is from, roughly, like that's what people know. I realized so quickly why it takes them forever to go somewhere in like Outlander, because even by car, it takes you forever and you can drive up to 60 miles per hour. And it just feels like, I was 8 minutes drive away from the next village. That's how secluded kind of my cottage was at the time. And you can't just quickly go and buy more toilet paper or something. It's always a 15-minute run to the shops and coming back. And that's with kind of modern transport. So I realized like reading, especially in the books, like reading how long like another day of travel and then I sleep on I right another day of travel. That's so much more understandable if you're in the place. And I think I also understood a lot more the kind of pride that Scottish people have in their country, because I'm from Germany and we don't have that. Historically speaking, our history isn't really positive influence on the world, let's say, with two world wars. And like my country was the cause for this. So we don't put up flags in our gardens or something. So that's really, Americans do that a lot, especially for 4th of July. I don't really remember at any point in my life thinking I would love to put the German flag up for this. So I find that absolutely fascinating how proud you can be of your country, how much you can hate another country like England. It's just fascinating how history has shaped the culture, and you can still see today what's going on, whether it's religion or historical conflicts or something like that.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I honestly never really thought about that. And I do always feel like Germans are really good about like, I mean, it's not obviously not your fault, right? But like about just like taking accountability for their country. And I don't know, I just find that really
Yeah.
interesting. I feel like as Americans, we don't do that and we should. So it's
It's kind
interesting.
of hammered into our heads in school. Like we
Yeah,
obviously, I think it's a very different approach if you've lost a war, to like
that's
talk about
true.
it. And it's not just we lost, we also started it. I mean, I say we, it's you're right, I didn't do anything. Like, but my grandparent generation would have been involved in some sort of way, whether they looked away or whether they actively participated or something. So it's very interesting for me to see a different perspective. I have a fun fact for you. On
Yeah.
the 11th of November in Britain, there's a minute silence at 11:11. So 11 a.m. and 11 minutes. So I've like we've been going on holidays or something on that day, and there's literally in the airport there's a minute of silence. The area that I am from in Germany, this is when our carnival starts, a time of like happy celebration. It's literally you sit in class and everybody goes like, "Way 11:11." It's a very different kind of, well, there's no remembrance on that day. There is remembrance, obviously, with wreath laying down, but I don't know how much you know about remembrance in the UK. The entirety of November, people wear red poppies and come across this before. So I'm really interested to kind of just living a different culture, but also like I don't give up my German culture. Like I bring stuff in. There's a specific kind of rolls I force my boyfriend to eat every once in a while when I'm really craving them. Now that Lidl sells it here in Scotland, it's just like a nice little thing. But at the same time, when I'm in Germany, I miss Scottish food. So it's always this thing, the thing that I like can't have in the moment.
Yes, yes. The dichotomy of being, trapped between those two cultures and you never,
Exactly.
feeling at home in two places. So,
Yeah.
okay. Your doctoral thesis makes the argument that Outlander functions as a form of public history. For listeners who might not know that term, what does public history mean and why does it matter that we put Outlander in that category?
Right. So I hadn't actually heard about public history until I said very passionately to my supervisors, I want to shout into people's faces saying like Outlander's good and here's why. And his reply was, so you want to write about public history? And I was like, oh, okay, maybe. I'm not sure what this is. Spend obviously weeks and weeks reading up on it. There's so much theories about it, but it's an interesting concept that developed at the same time in the US, the UK, Germany, and Australia. They were kind of the first countries that brought the idea up. And it's literally just any way of learning history that isn't in university or in any kind of like school educative setting. So if you go to an open air museum, that's public history. If you go to any museum in general, walking tours count as this. And I was quite convinced that literary fiction or a historical fiction would count into that as well. And I read so many books and I never found anybody that said historical fiction is public history. So they're all kind of dancing around that. I still don't really know why, because it's quite obvious to me. If you read a historical book, you've probably learned something about history. So I am literally the only person in the world that says Outlander is public history, and I very much am convinced that it is, because there's so many. Anybody that's listening to this and has seen Outlander, they will know more about, I don't know, the Jacobite Rebellion. I didn't know that much about the American Revolution other than, it happened and kind of key dates. But I've learned a lot more about that. And to be honest, American history wasn't really something I was interested in. German history isn't something that I'm interested in. For some reason, it's just me being obsessed with Scottish history. And even that, I learned about something in Outlander and then went away and read academic books about it. And I think that happens to many, many people. But it's really hard to say, hey, this fan on Facebook has said they read up on, I don't know, Paul Revere or something like that. Because that's not academic knowledge. Like, you have to get the knowledge somewhere. And a PhD thesis is only accepted and you can only pass with it if it brings new knowledge to a subject. So the part that I am contributing to scholarship is saying, I think that Outlander can be public history. And by extension, I believe that other historical fiction can be as well. But I didn't have enough space or like words left in my thesis to even suggest what other types of work that might be.
Yeah, so many works. I mean, you know what I do, with the book club tour, that's, all about public history. We're reading books about places
Yeah.
and then visiting those places. And so I'm also very passionate about that as well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's something that I really enjoy saying to people. What you're feeling about this book series is valid, because you do believe you learned something. And even if you took away the tiniest bit, like, I don't know, you can pop a shoulder back into its socket. If that's what you take away, you've already learned something, right? And
I just watched that episode last night.
yeah, I have been told, though, that people shouldn't attempt that themselves, because the way it's portrayed in the series apparently isn't what modern surgeons would suggest you do. Yeah.
I would definitely not attempt that myself. Okay, you identify 4 key narrative strategies Diana Gabaldon uses to help readers connect with the past. Things like time travel as storytelling device, intertextuality, and the depiction of fictional historians. Can you walk us through 1 or 2 of those in a way that would make a book club reader see the series differently? Sorry, that's a really long
definitely.
question.
That's all right. Like, I mean, that's something that my dad said to me. He did watch the series, and at some point he was like, I better read all the books, right? And kind of know what you're talking about. So he read the German version of it. And then he texted me, said, like, are you making me read soft porn here? And I was like, well, yeah, kind of, right? Like, it is a little bit. But also, now that you're reading the first book, pay attention to this, this, and this. And he was like, oh, right. So that has really changed the reading experience. And I think that's some of the things that I've identified. So intertextuality is a concept created in the 1960s by a woman called Julia Kristeva. And it basically just means you reference another book in your book. So when Jamie in the second book reads Robinson Crusoe, that is intertextuality. So that is one of the scenes that I analyze in my thesis. And I think if you like look at this, it says Jamie puts down the book very carefully. So you can kind of take from that books were worth a lot more than your average paperback nowadays. He then, there's an actual quotation from Robinson Crusoe in the book that kind of mirrors what Jamie is going through, the isolation. It's because Jamie in this situation, for anybody that doesn't know what I'm talking about, he's in a cave hiding from the British government army and basically doesn't have anything to do throughout his day other than hide. So reading obviously is a big part of getting some mental stimulation. So there's a scene of how in Robinson Crusoe he's like isolated and he's collecting rainwater and he needs to survive. And it's kind of as if Jamie's reading this and validating like, oh, my life is the same just now. So a modern reader then obviously thinks like, okay, so in the 18th century, when Jamie is reading this, Robinson Crusoe must have existed. So I went on and like looked up when was Robinson Crusoe published, who was it written for, first it was a children's book, and then it was really popular with adults as well. And then it had some criticism about British colonialism in it and the role over other countries, which Outlander criticizes as well with the Jacobite rebellion. So it's really like that really got me into it. And I have a massive spreadsheet with all the references that are in Outlander. Most of them are from the Bible because Jamie is a deeply Catholic man. Mm-hmm. And then I think the first book has about like 50 to 60 references. The one that's so far the last one, the ninth book, Go Till the Beast That Is Gone, That I Am Gone, is I think 180 or something references. So it got more, and it feels a little bit like an Easter egg hunt. But Easter egg hunt isn't a professional academic term, so you would rather say it's an intertextual representation of the time or something. Another thing that I look at is Jamie and Lord John's friendship, because they become friends, at least in the books, via the books that they've read. And they talk about it and what they find interesting. So John is really surprised that Jamie's educated and can read and everything, which then led me down a rabbit hole of trying to figure out how many people could actually read at the time. And interestingly, there was more literate people in Scotland than there were in England at the time.
Wow.
And it was about 75% that could read of the population. That includes men and women. And I thought that was absolutely fascinating that, like, you can tell this from reading about this sexy Highlander talking to a very good-looking British kind of aristocrat, right? So there was so much hidden in this friendship based on books. And in the later Outlander novels, John is the one that sends books to Jamie and basically creates a library at Fraser's Ridge. With a big fire then, they lose the library, they start building it up again. It's really, that's one of the things that I find super fascinating, and I could probably talk about it forever.
Oh, that's fascinating. I am curious if you read all the books in English or German or both.
I read them all in English. I wasn't even born when the first book came out. The first book came out in 91. I was born in 93. And
I in the late 90s I started.
Right, yeah. I mean, I didn't find out about the series until my dad found it on Netflix, and it literally said like Scotland in the 18th century, I think was the tagline. And I was like, sure, why not? History in Scotland, love it. And then with the second season coming out while I was in Scotland, I was so annoyed that I couldn't find out what was happening next. So I started reading them, and I read them in English because it kind of felt right. We watched the seasons in English as well because I was trying to get used to the accent. That was a bit stupid because nobody in Inverness talks like they talk in Outlander. Not that many people actually have that accent that they put on for the show. That it's too, I would say it's quite Americanized. It's what you would expect thinking about Scotland. Glasgow's accent is a lot harsher, and I think it sounds beautiful, but most people can't understand it at first, and I couldn't either. Inverness, in comparison, has a very clean accent. So you almost can't tell that it's Scottish. So people, I think, are a bit disappointed when they get to Inverness and people just speak normally. So yeah, I read them all in English. I have, I think, the first book and a couple of the Lord John novels in German. I've started them and then I was like, no, this is weird. So I think it's because in general, I read books in English if they were written by an English-speaking author. That just makes sense to me. That feels like I'm closer to what the person is saying. And then German books, obviously, if written by a German. But by now, English sounds better to my ears. So especially sex scenes are really awkward in German. I really don't like it. So I think I would like go fast forward through them. But one of the things I still want to do in my research is kind of figure out what do Germans get when they read it and what do English people get or English-speaking people, and then kind of find other scholars like a Spanish-speaking one, a French-speaking one, and see what do they say. Because definitely the German translation was cut short by about 30% in the first translated edition.
Oh, wow.
Because German uses a lot more words to say the same thing in English.
Right.
I think we have... There's a saying that every 150 words in English is 200 words in German or something. So
Wow.
it is a massive difference. The German books are even thicker than the English ones. They have now rectified this, and there is a full translation available of all books. And interestingly, Diana Gabaldon is friends with the German author, the German translator.
Hmm.
So the Germans get their translated editions faster than anybody else
Oh,
because Diana
interesting.
shares her translations. Um, yeah, so it's really interesting. That's something I still want to do, and I've just published an article or like a chapter in a book about the German translations of just simply the titles because that already makes a massive difference.
Yeah, it's always fun to see when I travel. Even we were just in France over Christmas, just seeing like movie titles and how they're translated, and it's like, oh, that is completely different. I think it was like Zootopia or something. I can't remember what it was, but it was like, oh, that's
Yeah,
like completely different in French.
yeah. I think I think Moana is the big one that gets translated.
Oh,
In
that's
like in the
funny.
European context. For me, it was the first time I realized there was a difference in the translations was when the Twilight movies came out, because I was obsessed with the books and I read them in
Me
German because my
too. Me
English wasn't
too.
good enough. And so the first movie is called Twilight. In German, the movie is now called Twilight as well because it's just a term that everybody knows. But the book
Right.
was published as Bis zum Morgengrauen, which means bite until morning. So the first word bis with double S means a bite, and then if it's just one S, it means until. So it's like a play on words, either until
Ah,
like dawn or bite until dawn or something. It's and then all the other books follow that same thing. It's always bite until and a different time of
that's
day.
so funny. I did not know that.
Eh,
I'm a big
And
Twilight. I'm a big Twilight nerd, so this was a fun fact for me.
right,
Thank you.
right. I mean, but it sounds horrible, right? Like now that I know what the original is, I'm kind of like, why did you have to make it awkward and make it sound like it's vampires, you know? Like
That is
Twilight
so
feels
funny.
more sophisticated.
Right, right. Bite until dawn. I love it. I'm gonna call it that from
Yeah.
now on. Oh, that is so funny. Okay. There's a tension many readers feel. Outlander is a romance novel, but it's also deeply researched historical epic. Do you think that romantic framing actually helps or hurts how audiences engage with the real Scottish history?
Right. I like you sent me a couple of questions beforehand, and like in this one, I circled help a lot, and I knew I wouldn't have to make any notes for this because I think for the average reader, it does help. It's the kind of way in it makes it's the difference between a history book and a historical fiction. You have people that you connect with, and obviously, it doesn't hurt that everybody's quite good looking, that they have steamy scenes with each other. At the same time, I think that the romance story hurts how well researched the books are because especially kind of classic historians get a bit too stuck into the whole yeah but it's romance, so
Hmm.
it kind of overshadows how much historical fiction it is. I'm also convinced that not all the books are romance books. I think that the first few are until we get Brianna and Roger to come in, and then we kind of moving into like a family saga kind of situation.
Hmm.
And I think that's what's happening in the final season just now as well. That we see all these people, all the kind of different strands of families, for whatever reason, they're coming back into the same place. And I'm really hoping that they're going to end the season or the series overall with everybody being together and being like happy and not constantly in danger like they have been for 8 seasons.
Yeah. I'm just at the episode where Ian is leaving to go see if his old wife and child are still alive. So I'm hoping
Right.
that they bring swiftest of lizards back and he gets to live with them. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well,
But
I mean, wait till you get, I think, which one was just out, number 7. There's been big discussions about it. And I personally, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I think it was very well done. It is over dramatized in comparison to the books, but I
right.
can see why they did it. TV has to be more dramatic than books, right? Do you also
Yeah.
like some things work in books that don't work in films or in series? So, for
Hmm.
example, the voiceover that Claire does in the first season, I think it's way better in the books because you get Claire's opinion the entire time and you don't have any idea what anybody else thinks. So, once they introduced voiceovers by other characters, I was like, all right, I can see why you're doing it, but it's not true to the actual books kind of thing.
Right. Right. But it's kind of necessary in some points. So you can
Yeah.
have that kind of internal dialogue, right?
Yeah. Also, they're trying to make news, right? You like as a showrunner, your show has to be relevant. So you
Yeah.
throw in a massively dramatic scene and everybody goes like, "Oh my God, I did not expect this." Because this like the thing that happens in episode 7 is something that book readers thought they knew about but then didn't.
Okay. I'm
So
excited to get
it was
there.
very very intriguing, yeah.
I've been watching your videos, your episode reviews, and I'm like, oh, scroll away. I haven't seen that one yet. So I've got it. Once I'm all done, I'll go back and watch your video reviews.
Great.
So I appreciate the spoiler alert. Okay, your thesis covers not just Scotland, but the Jacobite uprising, specifically as well as Scots in colonial America. How accurately does Gabaldon handle the Jacobite uprising of 1745 to 46, and where does she take the most creative liberty?
I hate this question, but simply
We can skip
because
it. We can skip it if you don't want to answer.
no, I like it's more the thing that I get asked all the time. How accurate is it?
Right.
And I think lots of people misunderstand my thesis as me going through the book saying, and this is correct, and this is wrong, and this is how it would actually be. And that's not it at all. No historical fiction work or no book ever can be 100% true. Even when we read published history books, they cannot be fully true because we only get a perspective of something. So when we research something, we can only see what people have left for us. And in most of the times, the people that wrote down what we now still have, like the physical evidence, they were educated people that could write. They were potentially the people that did win the whatever fight, uprising or something. So it's very interesting for me to just say, like, guys, this is not relevant. Like, it's not relevant how accurate it is. Saying that, I would say 90%. So, like, I do have an answer for it, but I love to then just point people to, well, but isn't it interesting that more people were literate in Scotland and in England or something? Like, kind of change the direction that people think we're going when they ask the question. I think one of the things about the Jacobite uprising that I find questionable is that the Lallybroch men are sent back home, so they all survive, because that's the part where the time travel comes in. They're only sent home because Claire is there changing history in some sort of way, in a small way. She can't stop the whole uprising, but she can kind of save these people's lives. So that's where I go like, that's a bit unbelievable that people that
Right.
have a really clear conviction, like I want to be part of this uprising, and then at the evening of the actual like final like big battle, they go, actually, you know what? I'm going to go home. So this, that's it's just it doesn't make any sense, but it doesn't need to because it's fiction.
It's fiction. Yeah, exactly. I love that answer. That's perfect. Thank you. Okay, you've contributed a few chapters to Outlander and Scotland, published in December. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, that's my first publication, so I'm really proud about it.
Exciting.
I know, it's so cool. It makes me a published author. I got to join the Society of Authors in the UK, and it's a crazy feeling. Unfortunately, my name is not on the cover, so anybody that finds it. So the full title is Outlander and Scotland: Touchstones and Signposts. It is edited by a group of academics from Glasgow University, and I'm inside the book, so I've signed it and everything. But it's still like I can't wait to have like my own one with my own name on it on the front. This book came about after an Outlander conference in 2023, which was literally academics from all over the world coming together in Glasgow, talking for 5 days about Outlander. And there were so many people that wanted to speak at this conference that every single panel had a parallel session. So you always had to choose which one you wanted to listen to. There was a couple that I was super interested in, but I couldn't go because I was speaking at the time. And we ended the conference with kind of everybody saying like, what now? Have we established Outlander studies? Is this a thing now? Do we need to do more? What's happening? I will say that this conference was probably 80% women, which isn't surprising because this is the main target group. But I think the more the series has gone on, I think it's kind of become also a lot of men that maybe were forced by their partners at first, but then got really into it. So I think there was probably about 3 to 5 male academics at this conference. And it was one of the nicest conferences I've ever been to. Everybody was really supportive, saying like, oh my God, your topic sounds amazing. I want to hear about it. And it wasn't kind of the normal peacocking you would have saying like, oh, I'm the only person that does this. And your research, but lots of academic conferences have kind of a statement that comes out in Q&As at the end of a panel where it's like, this is not a question, more of a comment. And that didn't happen at the Outlander conference. It was genuinely interested questions that were being asked. So when we'd finished this conference, it was supposed to be in 2021. Obviously, it couldn't happen because of the pandemic. So it was pushed to 23. And we all presented our papers, had a grand time, met so many cool people from all over the world. And then it kind of got a bit quiet until the organizers got in touch and were like, guys, we want to make a book. Are you up for it? So basically the papers that we had presented at the conference, they gave us a chance to rework them, send them in, and then they would put them together into a book. And they had found a publisher in Edinburgh called Luath Press who would print it and publish it and market it and everything. Which means it is a commercial publisher. So that means that it gets published a lot faster than an academic publisher would. And the price is also kept down. I think it's about £16 roughly, which is really affordable for academic work. Usually they're priced between £70 and £90.
Right.
So we were all amazingly happy with this. And it came out in December. We did an online book launch because it was on the 18th of December. So everybody was off for the Christmas holidays already. And we actually managed to get Diana Gabaldon to come into that video call as well. And she did a couple of, she spoke a little bit, and she also wrote the foreword. There's a few questions. I think it's like 20 questions at the very end of the book that she answered for us. And it's amazing how involved she's been in kind of promoting the book. She's also on the cover of the book.
So cool.
So it's so cool, yeah. And she's wearing the University of Glasgow tartan.
Oh, awesome. So, and you've met her several times, right?
I have met her 5 times, maybe.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of, it depends on like what you mean by meet. Like, does it have to be in person? Like, because obviously I was on the video call as well, and I spoke. Right. So there's a screenshot of me below her kind of thing. Yeah. I met her in August in Edinburgh. There's always a big book festival or like literature festival. And one year, I think it was 21 possibly or 22, in September she was there, and she did a big kind of talk and presentation in this beautiful old building. And I went with one of my friends, and that was the first time I'd seen her speak, and it was really exciting. And it was book signing after, and I kind of like walked out really nervous. I was like, hey, I'm writing my PhD thesis about your books. And she was clearly like, her mind wasn't there because there was hundreds of people she was signing for it, because she went like, oh, I hope that goes well for you. And that was it. And I was like, oh, that's a bit disappointing, you know? But looking back now, I know how overwhelming it is to have to react to every single thing that someone says. So clearly she was just, her brain was turned off in that moment.
Right.
And then there was a month later, there was an event in Inverness that the Inverness Outlanders fan group put on, who I'm a member of. And we organized the whole signing afterwards, and she signed until 1 a.m. Like, she just kept going until every single person had their book signed. It was so lovely. My partner was the last person to get like our book signed, because every time I meet her, I'm just like, might as well get this book signed as well. Right. It's like I don't think I have any not signed versions now. But
that's amazing.
It's just fun to do, to like see her again. And then, I mean, the absolute highlight was that she came to my graduation.
So cool.
So it's like the coolest thing. I was not told for a while, and at some point I was sent an email saying like, this is top secret, do not tell anybody, but Diana Gabaldon is coming, and we're giving her an honorary doctorate. And I was like, oh my god, I'm going to be the Doctor of Outlander, and like the woman of Outlander, like the creator, she's going to be there. And I was freaking out at home, and going like, what can I do, what's going to happen? And I helped write like a press news or like press release. It was published on the BBC News website, and I was like, oh my god, my brain's like blown. My photo is on the BBC website, and it was really cool. And like the best thing about it was that she's such a genuinely nice person. I had said beforehand, you know, I'm starting an Instagram account. I want to share my knowledge, not just in a book that people buy, but like almost face to face so people can watch me on Instagram or Facebook. And I messaged the social media team of the uni and said, hey, do you guys think we could maybe do a video of her? Here's a wee script that I wrote. Can you maybe, like, do you think this is possible? And they were like, yeah, we'll just ask her on the day. And somebody came up to me and her while we were chatting on the day. It was like, we would love to do an Instagram reel with you. It was Alex's idea. And I was like, whoa, way to pin it on me. If this goes bad,
No pressure.
no pressure. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. And we have this amazing background. And like the videos, basically, she says, I'm Diana Gabaldon and I wrote this book, and holds up her like first Outlander book. And then I go, I'm Dr. Alexandra Dold, and I wrote this thesis about her books. And you can like slightly hear her giggle in the background. And then someone from the uni comes in, like, we're the University of the Highlands and Islands, and we're giving both of them doctorates today. And I thought it was hilarious. And the uni put it up, I think like 2 days later or something after the actual event. And at this point, so the graduation was in November, where, what is it, 5 months, 6 months about. After that, we now have 1.6 million views across platforms. So it keeps going, and there's likes coming in. There's 30,000 likes or something, hundreds and thousands of comments. And the most gratifying thing about it is that people are saying, when can we read this thesis? Because I've put 6 years of my work into it, and I know there's something there that is interesting to people, which usually doesn't happen with PhD theses.
Right.
On average, a thesis gets read by about 5 people, like your supervisors and your examiners. And I was really lucky that people are interested in it. I can't share it just now because if I want to, well, I do want to publish it, and I'm speaking with publishers and I'm rewriting it to make it a bit more interesting than the actual thesis is. But nobody wants to publish it if it's already freely available somewhere. So I need to kind of be careful how much I share. But yeah, it is a really thick piece of paper. It's 280 pages exactly.
Nice.
And it's, yeah, I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of my questions later is, what are you working on? And I'm assuming this is what you're working on, is reworking this for
yeah,
public.
I'm definitely I'm reworking it for the public. So I have like a proposal sheet that publishers give you when they think you're ready to submit a proposal. But for that, you have to create an outline, like this chapter is going to be this and this chapter is going to be that. Usually books have more chapters than theses do, so I kind of have to think about how I can split it up more. The introduction basically isn't usable for a book because it's so much literature review of what other people have written. That's not interesting for someone to read in a book, right?
Yeah.
And then also the conclusion isn't really relevant because it's what academic steps could I take next? Not interesting at all. So I'm trying to rewrite this book. And also we're working on a second volume of academic collection of chapters and research on Outlander. So we've sent out invitations for contributions at the moment only to previous contributors. And I say we because I've been made editor, or like I made myself editor, really. Me and one of the other, I know, it's so cool. And my name will be on the cover when it's like all done. I think we're talking about like 2 years for this to be done, but it's kind of, we've started it. It's me and Dr. Robin Irving, who's a clinical psychologist. So that's really interesting.
Oh, wow.
And Gilabridge Macmillan, who was the bard in Outlander season 1. And he's now the Gallican historical consultant on Outlander. So
cool.
It's the 3 of us working together. And yeah, so we're about to do like a social media kind of almost campaign saying like, have you always wanted to write academically about Outlander? Hit us up. We need people to submit something so we have a full book. And it's not just the 3 of us writing it, because we want as many kind of perspectives to come in. And right now, the new book is going to be called Outlander Around the World or Around the Globe, something like that, because we want to bring in lots of different opinions, perspectives. There's not much research done yet on Asian countries or even Australia and New Zealand. How they experience Outlander. Are they coming to Scotland? What are they looking for? And then also, how do they understand Scottish culture and history? It is mainly North America and Europe that is kind of the target group at the moment.
That'll be really fascinating. Yeah. I'm curious about the Scottish-Australian connection, just because, like, if there's any interest there, just because my ancestors came from Scotland to Australia, then to the US. So, and I think that happened with quite a few people. So Be
Yeah,
interesting.
it's not enough to just say I'm a big fan kind of thing. We need someone to be able to actually support their evidence. If you've never written an academic text before, but you think you can, I mean, give it a try, send a proposal in, and we'll have a look at it. I'm going to shamelessly throw this out here. If anybody
Go for
listening wants to
it.
contribute, we have an email address. It's, I mean, obviously very cool, outlanderscholars@gmail.com. So anybody that wants to submit a proposal, or if you see it on Instagram or whatever, just send us a message, say like, here's my idea. Don't know if I can do it kind of thing. Because
Yeah.
we want to represent everyone. And one of the unusual things that we're doing is even asking master's student to submit, because there are many, many master theses on Outlander that never get published or never get used for anything because they're not quite there yet. Like a
Right.
master's is a high degree, but it's not as like deep research as a PhD is because you have less
Yeah.
time and you have less requirements to do it. So we're
Right.
really excited to give like younger scholars an opportunity to share what they think about Outlander as well.
That's so cool. Well, you'll have to let us know when those are, out and in the works and published, and be
Yeah.
interested to read that, especially your thesis. Exciting. Your chapter on film tourism looks at Outlander's impact on actual Scottish heritage sites. What did your research uncover? Are these sites thriving because of the show, or are there complications that fans might not think about? And this one's kind of like near to my heart just as a tour operator. I'm taking people to
Yeah.
these places, and I like to understand the impact of what we are doing, positive and negative, and just kind of think about how we can improve.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing is don't take anything, right? Like
Right.
if even
Don't take any
if
stones.
exactly there's a wall at Midhope Castle, which is Lallybroch in the TV show, that was basically taken down by people just taking, I'll just take a tiny stone, but every single tiny stone is needed for, to make sure this wall doesn't fall down. So it had to be
Yeah.
rebuilt and stuff. And we don't want to spend money on reconstructing something just because some idiots, literal idiots, took stuff away. It's at Culloden battlefield as well. The Fraser Stone is obviously a popular place to go. You can put down flowers, but don't do something like pouring whiskey over the stone because that will destroy the stone. You laugh about it, but that's
No, it
that's
never would
why
have crossed my mind.
that's one of the things why locals get really upset about the Outlander effect bringing so many people in, because out of 100 people, there will be one that is behaving badly. And obviously,
Right.
that one person is leaving the place less good than it is at a point, like when they're leaving. So I think that's like the one big thing, respect a heritage site. I'm not saying that obviously you wouldn't or something, but there's some things that I don't know. If a museum or a heritage site says do not touch, there's a reason why, right?
Right.
So even it won't break. Like if it says in one of the really beautiful houses, like the Hopetown house, for example, it has beautiful carpets, and I think there's a couple that you're not allowed to step on. That's not because your one footstep would destroy it. It is
But
because
a
all the
million
hundreds
would.
of thousands people, exactly.
Yeah.
There used to be a thing that IKEA did. They put their flooring out in between, like where you go from the top area to the bottom area or something, and it says like 10,000 feet walk over me every day or something like that. That is obviously something that was built to last like this. In these
Right.
old, beautiful houses, it was built for one family to kind of walk around there. So you can imagine how little footsteps there would be
Yeah.
normally. And now tourists are obviously more. I think there's a big difference between tourists and visitors in the way of like, for me, tourists are the ones that are loud, annoying, destroy something, or go
Americans.
like, no, not necessarily. I think there's every culture has those kinds of people that go
Yeah.
like, Germans will always complain about like, oh man, look at all those windows. I wouldn't want to clean those windows. It's a very typical German thing to say. So it's obviously like people thinking it's funny kind of thing, or like an American coming in and going like, oh my God, I can't believe how old this is or something. I know that it's crazy, but you can think it's crazy without touching it, right?
Right.
That's
Right.
like from a historian perspective, wanting to preserve history for like, I don't know, grandchildren to come or something. That's really important to me. So you'd also asked if like heritage sites are thriving because of the show, and that's a definite yes. I mean, the biggest influx in people coming to Scotland is, I think it's 54% of visitors in 2023 said that they came to Scotland inspired by film and TV. That could obviously be Outlander. It could also be Braveheart, Brave, Harry Potter is a big one still,
Hmm.
and the Da Vinci Code is another big
Oh,
one
yeah.
that uses Scottish like heritage site where they filmed. So these, it's completely. I love when people get inspired. They watch something, they go, "I want to see this in person." It's absolutely amazing. Please come here. Please look at everything. Also, fun fact: most of our museums are for free, so you can just walk in, have a look around. You don't need to spend 3 hours. That's something that people really struggle with, I think, when they come to Scotland. You guys try to see too much in too little time. I understand
Yes.
that you really want to see so many great things, but there is, especially like you can't drive as fast as Google Maps says you can because
Nope.
the roads are a lot smaller. And I think sometimes it's better to just take a minute or like even Google beforehand, what are the great exhibits in this museum and just look at five instead of looking at 100. So for
Right.
example, Kelvin Grove Art Galleries, what no, it's called Kelvin Grove Art Galleries and Museums. It's a natural history museum on one side, and the other side is an art gallery. And they have an incredibly impressive Salvador Dali painting. It's really big. It's in its own room. It has its own security guard. And every single time I go to the museum, I will go and see that because standing in this dark room, it's Jesus on the cross, and there's a like boat scene below it. I'm sure like people will have seen it. I had seen it before, but I didn't even notice that there were boats at the bottom. You just look at Jesus on the cross, and that's it. And standing in front of this painting, it makes me feel so humble in comparison to like there was this one guy that created this amazing piece of art and we still have it and we only have it because people don't touch it. So,
Right.
so
Right.
this is I think I should probably get myself a hat that says like please don't touch it
Please
because
don't touch.
that's the most important message. So yeah, I love the Outlander effect on Scotland in general and like the smaller heritage sites. Lallybroch, that wasn't like a location at all that people would go to it. It was a
Right.
derelict townhouse. Nothing really happened there, and now they're expanding it so amazingly. I just finished today writing an article for a newspaper in Scotland about what's kind of happening at Lallybroch or Midhope Castle, as it is really called, and kind of how local artists are now selling their stuff there, but it's all stuff that is related to Outlander. So I have this friend, her name's Anka Rainbow, and she makes amazing jewelry. She takes impressions of a wall. So basically, she touches, but she touches with permission. She will
Hmm.
ask, she will take an impression of like a piece of wall, or for Lallybroch, it's the step that Claire sits on when she misses Jamie. So there's an impression of that, and then she turns it into jewelry. So you can wear, like, literally touch
So
the
neat.
jewelry and it is the thing that you're seeing in front of you and you can touch it on your jewelry, and it's one of the most amazing pieces of jewelry that I have the one from the second step of Lallybroch as earrings, and it's just every single time I look at it and like touch it go like whoa. And I've talked to Anka for this article I've just written, and she was saying that the thing she personally as a maker likes the best, that the impression she takes is obviously one moment in time. In 10 years, the weather will have changed the stone and you will never get this texture again. So her Textures of Scotland, I think, is like a brilliant way of going around the whole do not touch and like taking
Right.
something with you that is super special.
I love that. That's so neat. I'm gonna have to check that out. What is it called again? Or does she have like an account
Um,
that I can share?
yeah, her name is Anka Rainbow. So like Rainbow
Okay.
is her actual last name,
Oh,
and it's
wow.
called so cool, right?
I
It's called
know.
Textures of Scotland.
Oh, cool. Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up. That sounds amazing. I've
Yeah,
seen you. I think I've seen you share some of her jewelry before.
yeah.
Did
Like
you
we've
do
done a
a giveaway
giveaway
with her?
together.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so
because
cool.
I had said to her, "You need to make bookmarks," and she was like, "Well, I'll
Oh,
make
so
bookmarks if
smart.
you do something together with me." And like, I've got some, and they're so amazing. Like, I love it.
That's genius. Well, I love
Yeah,
that you called it the Outlander effect. I
yeah,
mean, obviously, my entire business is operated around people reading or seeing a show or a movie and then wanting to visit somewhere. So, I mean, I obviously am grateful for that, but also am mindful and want to be respectful of, the culture and the historic sites. And so that's really
yeah,
important to me as well. And I talk I talk about that to my guests as well. And
yeah. I
so
loved
thank you
seeing.
for
Is it Bath that you just recently went to?
Yeah,
What's
I mean,
that?
lots of places,
Right.
but yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, but I'd seen like I saw the post that you did about it, and I was like, this is brilliant. Like dressing up like you're in one of the novels, and it kind of makes like history and books to touch. So I mean, that's why we connected in the first place because I just thought it was a brilliant thing to do. And I mean, I would walk around in an 18th century dress if I could, if it wasn't weird, because like that, like dressing like someone that just puts you into their like into the mindset like how did people sit, how did they eat, what happened when women were on their periods, do you know, like all these kind of
Hmm.
little things that you don't really think about, and I think you
Yeah.
can really kind of feel it when you're running around dressed up. It's so amazing.
Absolutely. Doing a dance workshop while in
All
your
right.
Regency clothing, you're like, okay, how did people dance in the, oh man, this is really sweaty, like how are they keeping from not smelling bad? So
Yeah.
that does it. It brings up a lot of questions, when you kind of put yourself into that costume. And we'll definitely be dressing up in Scotland. I'm sure I'll be in touch and make sure I think you were putting me in touch also with somebody that does costuming, right?
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
like
so
you might have seen that video that I did that with her as well because she's making me
yeah,
a skirt just now.
I'm so excited
But
to
it's
see
like
it.
I'm so excited. It's like I wanted like a more modern thing because I don't want to
Hmm.
have like the really full big with a bustle and everything. Kind of,
Right.
I can't wear that to my talks. I want to look kind of like I'm a historian, but I'm also here. You know, not like
Right.
not. I'm dreaming to be in the past because I'm not, I don't think I could survive. So
No,
I
I would
want to
die.
be, I'm lactose intolerant. I can't, like, I wouldn't be able to live there.
I love indoor plumbing. It's
Yeah,
the best.
yeah, exactly. I think that's the things that you kind of forget about that you really enjoy, right? I get asked all the time, would you like to travel back in time like Claire? And my answer is no, because it's freezing all the time in Scotland, right? Even in the summer, the nights can be really cold. Have you seen what Claire wears when she first arrives?
Right.
She must have been like frozen to the bones. There's no way I would have survived this. Also, I'm a woman. I'm short-sighted. I wear glasses. I'm very short-sighted. So nobody would take me seriously in the past with the kind of glasses that I wear. And yeah, like you, I hate being wet is another thing, which is
Yeah.
really a problem in Scotland.
Yeah. A big problem. Even the things that she wears when she's like fully living in the past, I'm like, are you cold? Just that little sweater?
See, one
It's
of the
snowing
things
outside.
I know, the one of the things I keep thinking about, and I'm not sure which book it is, maybe seven or eight or something. It's very detailed, explained how the chemise, like the nightdress or the white underdress that Claire is wearing underneath her corset, how that digs into her skin when she takes off the corset. And I can literally imagine how it feels to pull them out of the creases of your skin. And the whole point of why this is being told is because Claire is in her mind thinking like, I got older. Why does Jamie still find me attractive? Like these creases have gone away faster when I was younger. And just the thought of how itchy it must be when your skin kind of expands again and you've got space to breathe and everything.
Hmm.
It's just it like no. I've got like a bad feeling and like running down my back or something.
I know. I know. I love my leggings and my t-shirts.
Yeah.
I would not survive.
And bras, like proper, like modern bras, as like any other woman would probably understand this,
Oh
but
my
it's just,
goodness. I know.
yeah,
And as good as it feels to take your bra off at night, I can't imagine taking your corset off at
yes,
night.
exactly.
Okay. Okay. We already talked about meeting Diana Gabaldon. We'll skip that one.
Right.
I was like tearing up when you were talking about meeting Diana and like, like, oh,
Yeah, it's honestly like I really enjoy talking with her husband as well. He's kind of like my partner. You know, you women go do your thing. I'll stay in the background and just watch you and hold your jacket or
right.
whatever, which is really appreciated. And during the academic conference at Glasgow, we had a welcome kind of how do you call it, like a soiree or something at the city chambers of Glasgow, so the town hall. And it's a beautiful building. It was amazing to go and see it from the inside. And then obviously Diana was the most popular guest. Everybody wanted to talk to her. And I was speaking to her husband and just about like random things. He'd said like, oh yeah, we've done a river cruise in Germany before. Where are you from? And that kind of stuff. And then I felt really bad. I was like, I kind of need to go and ask your wife a question. And he was amazing. He was like, ask me. because I know everything. So he's the first person that reads everything. He'll go through it and discuss it with her. So I didn't even think about it, but obviously he would know. So I asked him what Roger's specialty as a historian is, because for me in my thesis, I couldn't explain it. There's several scenes where he says like, this isn't my specialty, that
It's not
isn't
my
my specialty.
speciality. Yeah.
I know. And it's like, it's literally just come up in season 8 as well.
Yeah,
And
I just saw your video about that too, and then I saw that episode the next day.
I was so upset about it in my head. I was like, I still don't know. And her husband didn't know. So he went like, I'll go and get her, and pulled her out of a conversation, was like, it's really important. And then he was like, this young lady has a question for you. We've never heard that one. And I was like, oh, wow. So this must be something really special, because all the other questions seem to be like recycled and asked again and again. And then she said, I don't know, it's not relevant. And I was like, great.
It's
It
not the
really
answer I
isn't,
wanted.
but it is relevant to me. So her husband said,
Especially as
now,
a historian, right?
I know. So once I put that video on Instagram and Facebook, loads of people commented and said like, what if it's like music of the 18th century, or what if it's this or that? And as historians, or like with someone with a PhD, we are specialized in such a narrow niche. So you can
Like
specialize
Outlander.
on like, yeah, well, not even Outlander. It's like, it's even more niche. It's the exact way that Outlander teaches you history. So
Right.
I don't know everything about Outlander. And you could ask me about the Middle Ages, and I have no idea. I can't even tell you what time frame the Middle Ages are, or what are the Dark Ages, whatever. This just doesn't happen. And I get asked
Yeah.
loads of questions about like, so the Vikings, like, no, not my field. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you, I can look it up, and I probably know better where to look it up. But it's kind of the skill that PhDing teaches you. You know
Right.
how to look things up. So yeah, I'm hoping for a mention of Roger's speciality in the 10th book, and if it does, I will like underline it and go like, that was me.
I
I
will
brought that
die.
in.
I know. I feel like your name needs to be like in the credits for that.
Right. Diana has just posted on the Lit forum where she kind of like where she started off posting little bits and stuff of her books, and then someone was like, "You really should write a book." So she's still kind of active on there, and she says that she enjoys kind of talking to people there. And she tagged me and said, "Our good friend Dr. Alex Dold will know more about literature about Scott Outlander." And I was like, oh my God, I'm your good
Defer
friend.
to
Like
to
this
Dr.
is
Alex
this
Dold.
it's amazing. And yeah, I mean, I know millions of people know of her, and that she knows my name, and like is actively saying like, I know more about her because she knows the story, but I know how it kind of relates to people, kind of thing. So
Right.
it's amazing, and I'm hoping that she will write a foreword for my thesis when it
That would be
becomes a book.
incredible. That would be incredible. I'm sure she will. That's
That
incredible.
would be like, that's where I'm tearing up. I'm like, oh my
I
God, I
know.
can't believe this is my life.
I know. That's amazing. I just love seeing people's dreams come true. This is
It
just
was
like
like
making my
when I
day.
was like, yeah, like when I was like 12 or something, I remember being obsessed with reading. Like I would read all the time. My like fun activity on the weekend would be to reorder my shelves. Like I would
Right.
order them by color, and then next time by like name. It maybe, I don't know, this is like an ADHD thing of like keeping myself busy and my mind busy or whatever, something like that. But I remember someone saying to me, you need to stop reading this much. You can never make a living out of reading. And I'm like, look at me now.
Look at me
My
now.
my job is to talk about books, to like write books. It's literally that's all I do is books. And I'm so grateful that I get to do it.
Yep. Read books, write books, talk about books. Look at that. Look at
Yeah.
this. I
Amazing.
love it. Amazing. Okay. All right. My podcast, the Brit Lit Book Club, and the Book Club Tour are both rooted in the idea that books can take you somewhere, that you can experience a story differently when you're standing on the land where it was set. As you know, I'm guiding a Scottish book club tour next summer, and as a tour guide yourself, what do you think visiting Scotland does to a reader's relationship with Outlander?
I think it's definitely like you get a closer connection to like the fictional work. Like I said, when I first got there, you really understand how long travel times are. And you kind of, if you eat the kind of food that people would have had, like haggis is obviously a big one that everybody wants to
Mhm.
try. You realize, haggis is this gross mix of all the insides of a sheep because that's what people had, right? And then when you try it, it's not actually gross. The only thing that is gross is the idea of eating those kinds of things, but it's cooked.
Right.
It's not more gross than a chicken that you then cook, kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's like it connects you with the real history as well. That's why I say like Outlander's public history. I think it's a two-way thing. So Scotland, going to Scotland connects you more with Outlander because you understand it better. But then also reading Outlander connects you better to Scottish history because you have this connection through characters and you kind of have an idea of who everyone is. Bonnie Prince Charlie isn't the best represented in Outlander. I feel like he's a comedic relief character. Like you need somebody that's a bit silly, that you can laugh about, that you get annoyed about when he says, "Mark me for the 100th time." But still, like nobody that has read Outlander will ever go, "Huh? Who's Bonnie Prince Charlie?" Like he will be in your head. And if you then end up going to Scotland and have a chance to go, I don't know, Culloden Battlefield Museum or something, you get other impressions of the characters, of what they're like, why was he so, impressive that people wanted to follow him and like didn't just go like, no point in this anymore, let's just leave. So I think both of them, like the literature informs the history and the visit, and then the other way around as well. And there's actually someone else who wrote a PhD thesis about Outlander, and her topic, it's not like she's done and she passed and everything. Her name's Dr. Teresa Doki, and she did hers at the University of Glasgow. And her research was all into this kind of cyclical nature of you watch Outlander, you want to visit Scotland, and then you come back home and you go like, I miss Scotland, so I'm going to watch it again. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, and I think she's turning hers into a book as well, but it's really interesting. That's kind of what your question's getting at, the whole like, it's never just one. They're all intricately connected to each other.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely have people, we do a book club before my book club tours, right? It's like a year long, we read a book a month and then we discuss it and then we visit. But then I definitely like the conversation continues. We go and we visit these places and people connect with them. And then we return home and, we have group chats that are still going. People, oh, I read this book about, this place that we visited, or I saw this thing. And like you said, the cyclical nature of, you read it,
Yeah.
you go visit, you come back, you miss it, you want to connect with it more. So
Yeah.
I love that.
It's also kind of like, do you know when you buy a new car and it's a white car, all of a sudden you see white cars everywhere,
Right.
right? So that's what happens when you read Outlander. You will find Outlander references everywhere or see it everywhere or something. So you'll go to a museum that has absolutely nothing to do with Outlander, but then one person shows up, or like the name Bonnie Prince Charlie shows up, and you go like, I know who this is because I read this book. And I think it makes people appreciate the history more because they don't feel like it's just a tour guide talking at you. You're kind of more involved and you feel like, well, I know Jamie intimately.
Right.
And it kind of helps, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have 4 kids and I've homeschooled all of them. And, our whole curriculum has kind of been based around you read these books and you understand things from books, mostly fiction, even though
Yeah.
it's not all factual things. But I think the things that you can gain from fiction, like just the empathy and putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, is so important and just can really help you connect to a location.
Yeah, and also learning what people you don't like or like what behaviors you don't like. It's not just kind of it's up like everybody at the moment is talking about how reading is political, but it's not just political, it's historical. It's all these different things, and putting yourself into someone else's shoes, and you go like, I can put myself into your shoes, but I still hate what you did. That is completely like you need to learn that as well. And
Yeah.
I start my classes. I teach literature at Glasgow Uni, and I usually start my classes saying who read the book, and then who read half of the book and who didn't read the book at all. So the people that didn't read the book at all, they're obviously just, they didn't have time or they were lazy or whatever. There's some sort of reason that has nothing to do with the book. People that read the book half are most interesting to me. Like, why did you stop? Did you not have time? That's a valid excuse for a student, I think, because some books are really big. We just
Right.
read Middlemarch this year, which is a really big
It's
book.
a
It
big
takes a
one.
while to get, yeah, and you need to get into the style of writing to understand. This is like that the topic was intertextuality that we've already talked about. And it, most of the students said, yeah, they read half of it and then Googled the rest, how the story ends, which is completely fine because I, preparing it, also didn't have time to reread it entirely. So I read like the
Right.
scenes that I was going to discuss with them. But I think good education and like being able to talk about literature is also putting into words why you didn't like it. So if somebody says to me they don't like Outlander, that's completely valid. But if you say they don't like it because there's romance in it, that's not a valid reason, right? Because you haven't tried the book then. You
Mm-hmm.
can't, there's not romance from the first second, and there's not like right away a happy after, a happy ever after that you
Yeah.
like don't know or something. So I think that the whole point of studying literature is also being able to express yourself and saying like, I like this, I didn't like this. And my students usually are really like when they first have a class with me, they're really, I don't know, surprised with me when I say things like, I absolutely hated this book. And then they go, whoa, like as a literary scholar, how can you say this? And then I'll say, like, because it's not like that's not my genre. I love fantasy, I love romance, I love historical fiction. That's what I read in private. But
Mm-hmm.
for work, I read different kinds of books. And then I have to put into words why I like it. And then I still have to talk about it if I don't like it, because I
Yeah.
have to teach students to do that. And I usually say that I went to university, I think, for a total of 12 years. So I have gained the right to say, I hated this book.
Yeah,
Right.
you have definitely gained that right. It's a long time. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and we're currently talking about red flags and like expressing that you don't like things and things that you do like and
Mm.
forming opinions about that. And I think reading even helps with that. Just about
Yeah.
dating and that kind of real life things. I think can be
Yeah. And
applicable.
I mean, read some romantasy and you have like men written by women, and there will be like behaviors that you go like, this is how I want to be treated.
Right,
And like,
exactly.
I didn't realize this for a while when I was younger, and I was treated quite badly at times. Looking back now, I sometimes wish that I had been more, well, not literate, but more understanding that what I can see in books does exist. It just didn't exist in the men that I spend time with.
Right,
And
exactly.
I'm quite lucky now to have my own Jamie, even though he hates it when I say that, but it is like it's kind of fate. It just happened, and we're very happy. And he's a big reader as well, which helps.
Love that. That's so great.
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. Okay, if a book club listener is planning a trip to Scotland and wants to feel the world of Outlander, where would you send them first? I'm sure there are
To the
like
tourist,
many, many, many,
many.
locations.
The first place you should go to is the tourist information, because they will have, like, they're literally trained to tell you where to go. The next place I would go is a car rental place, because some of the locations you can't get to without a
Right,
car. So if you have a car, I would always say Midhope Castle, because it's just Lallybroch. That's the home. This is where you want to go. They have the first time I went was just after they introduced fees, and I think it was £3 per person. That's not how cheap it is anymore. I will say that. So there is an entry fee. However, it's worth it. You can actually go inside now into the one room that they have open that is now structurally safe to go in. And I think as like an Outlander fan, this is the one location. If you don't have time for much, do that one and do Edinburgh, because there's some like multiple locations there, like Jamie's print shop. It's just a simple walk to get there. If you have a car, or even if you don't, Inverness is, I think, a great place to go, especially if you're a book reader. None of the scenes of Outlander were actually filmed in Inverness. So what we see as Inverness on the screen is a place called Falkland. And I haven't actually been there because to me, the series isn't that exciting. Like I watch the series as like the average fan. I just enjoy watching it. The book locations are really interesting to me. So you can go to Inverness and kind of walk around, and there's at one point in the book it says like, oh, they went to the Catholic church. There's exactly one Catholic church in Inverness. So it's really easy to find. And I actually have a walking tour that I've recorded for a portal called Exploro. So you can basically download my voice telling you about the locations in Inverness.
cool.
That was part of my PhD research before the pandemic. So I wanted to see, do people book on a tour if it has Outlander in the name or not? And I had two tours, one that was just called Stories of Inverness, and one was Outlanders Inverness. They went to the exact same locations. And before I could take any data, the like tourism industry broke down. So I will never know if that is the case or not. But I kind of ended up with this thing that I can offer to people without actually being there to tour guide them. When you're in Inverness, though, you should take a drive or a bus. Well, it's 2 buses you have to take to get to Culloden Battlefield from Inverness. If you can drive, it's amazing. Or get a taxi or something. And Culloden Battlefield really is this kind of place that I could always go back to, and it's always the exact same feeling for me. It's like incredible awe that we can stand on this field. Like, how likely is it that nothing was built there for the past 280 years? It was just last week, it was the anniversary of the battle. It's the 16th of April, 1746. So last week, it was 280 years exactly. And how crazy is it that nobody's built something in that time? And last year during excavations, they found an unexploded cannonball or bomb thing, which is crazy. They've just announced it again last week in order to kind of hit the anniversary with it. And I'm so fascinated by it. And the fact how many people lost their lives in just about 20 to 40 minutes of a battle. It's crazy. I get goosebumps talking about it. I even get goosebumps driving on the motorway past it. And you see the sign that's saying like Culloden Battlefield. I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what there is. And the museum that goes with it, it is a bit pricey, but it's absolutely worth it. I would totally, if I could, I would go every single time. I was lucky enough to get some private tours while I was doing research. And the museum is structured in a really interesting way. On the left-hand side on the walls is everything that we know from the British perspective. And on the right-hand side is everything we know from a Jacobite perspective. So you can kind of see how they're developing along at the same time, but in a very different way, because the British were a lot more organized. And you can even see that by the wooden slats that are on the wall. The British version ones are very structured, very clear from the beginning. And the Jacobites are kind of crooked, built on top of each other. And it's not something that has like a notice sign that you need a member of staff to tell you this is how we created this exhibition. And when somebody told me this, I was like, how have I never seen this before? So this is the kind of stuff that I would say definitely go and see. My favorite part about the museum is that the point where, like, it's the turning point in the Jacobite kind of agenda and also turning point in the museum. And it gets colder there because there's an AC just above like the turn that you do, like it's a 180-degree turn. And every time I walk in that, I remember that obviously this is it. And it's now cold April and it's going to be a bloody battle. And it just, they physically give you goosebumps because it's colder. And then you go into all the information about the battle. And I just think, like, the person that came up with this, it's absolutely brilliant because you're forcing people to experience it, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, I've been to the Culloden Museum, and it is really one of the most memorable museum experiences that I've had. I've never noticed anything that you just said. Like, I've only been there. I've been there twice, I think, but I haven't noticed that either. So that's fascinating. So next time when I go next year, I'm definitely going to check that out. But
yeah,
just they have that room with like the video. Do they still do that with
Yeah, I
they
think so.
like
Yeah.
kind of replay the? And it's just very moving. But wow, that's really well done.
Yeah, I'm really happy with most of the people that I talked about Outlander at Culloden Battlefield Museum. They are very good in not just saying, oh, Outland is bad, listen to the real history. They will say like, hey, Jamie Fraser, as you know him, that's not a real person. But I can show you where he would have been if he was a real person. Or do you want to hear about this other James Fraser that was actually on the battlefield? Mm-hmm. So they kind of use it and turn it away from the fictional story, but use it to actually explain what's going on. And then when you've got like all this dread in you because so many people died and everything, get some soup in the cafe. Best Cullen skink soup I've ever had. It's like a fish soup. Then go into the gift shop that has lots of like local exhibitors. So I've mentioned like the jewelry that my friend makes. Since this year, she's one of the people that gets to exhibit there, which is amazing.
Oh, that's
and then
cool.
once you've done all of this at Culloden Battlefield, it's only like a 5-minute drive to go to Clavacairns, which is an Iron Age burial ground. And there's quite old like notice signs. These are not the standing stones that inspired Claire and Jamie, but they're the easiest ones to access. So if you want to relive the whole touching the stones, that's where you should go. I'm kind of it's kind of right in between the don't touch and do touch to experience it. So obviously it's not the best to keep touching the stones, but at the same time, they have been there since the Iron Age. So somehow they have weathered it. And yeah, I will admit to having done it myself. Like, obviously, there's a picture of me touching the stones, kind of secretly hoping not to travel back in time, because as we've discussed, neither one of us would survive very well.
Yes. I love that. Well, we are visiting all of those locations on our tour, so I'm glad that, we're on the right track and hoping
That's
to connect
amazing.
with you
Yeah.
in Scotland as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay. I saw that you just presented at a history conference about how Outlander represents Scotland's involvement in the 18th century transatlantic slave trade. That feels like a side of the story that doesn't often come up in fan conversations. Can you talk a little bit about that? Do you know much about that?
Yeah, it's one of the topics that I discuss in my thesis, mainly because the way it's introduced in the books is quite, well, it's a very interesting way I think it's done because it starts off with Claire's husband Frank in the 20th century othering the Highlanders. So he kind of goes in and goes like, oh, they have these traditions here. This is what they do. So he speaks over them. When a local says something, Frank repeats it and then says to Claire, like, so he's not like he's othering the Highlanders and then he's mansplaining things to Claire. And it's something that really annoys me. I mean, he is a historian, so I think we, in general, as like species, historians love to explain things to other people, but I don't like it when someone already has explained it. I don't need to say it again, kind of thing.
Right.
So that's like, it rubbed me up the wrong way, so I looked into this. And this kind of behavior of Frank is then kind of a foreshadowing of what is happening with the transatlantic slave trade. So it's not as ugly of othering. Like, he's not taking slaves or something. I'm not saying that it's the same at all. But you as a reader get slowly introduced to this idea of here are others. We need to explain them. We're better than them. It's very subtle. And then when you get thrown into the transatlantic slavery, and you hear, especially in the books, because it's all told from Claire's perspective, there's a sentence that she says, it's like, I was outraged by the market, by the crudeness, by the nakedness, but most of all, outraged by my own presence. And I think that's a very important statement that like the reader then feels along with her. I don't think you can read Outlander and think slavery is the right thing to do, or that other people are worth less or something. And I think it's very well done in the novels, and obviously it's a very difficult topic to talk about, and it's highly relevant. There was just an auction at a like an antique shop near Inverness where they sold slavery shackles, and people were really debating it. It was in the newspaper and everything. Should we still sell these? Does the antique shop owner have any right to sell them? Should he be donating them to a museum? What museum would take them? So the fact that we still don't really know how to deal with it means we haven't talked about it enough, right? Yeah. And I thought this was a brilliant topic to talk about for the conference, which was not just a history conference, but historical fiction. So it's all the like leading experts in historical fiction that come together and talk about it and kind of share their newest insights. And I thought this is something that people don't think about, so I will talk about it. And I got really good feedback. People were really interested in what I had to say. And I think quite like the fact that it was hidden kind of inside this love story. Oftentimes I think people take the first season of Outlander or the first book of Outlander and just stop thinking about it more, because like the transatlantic slavery shows up in the third book. So you really need to keep going to get to these nitty-gritty topics. And living in Glasgow, I'm very aware of Scotland's involvement because Glasgow is completely built on the money of slavery. We're the one port that is on the west side of Scotland. So Glasgow's money comes from shipbuilding, for transporting slaves, for merchants traveling over. And even if it wasn't slaves being transported, there will be what Glasgow calls tobacco lords, but really they're slavery owners because no tobacco plantation would work without the slaves at that time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the tobacco lords are memorialized here with either statues, lots of streets are called like that. Our main shopping street is called Buchanan Street. Andrew Buchanan, massive slave owner. I'm not saying that we can't name the streets like this or keep the names that are there, but I think we should add little signs to it saying this is what Andrew Buchanan did. The city of Glasgow does not condone this, or something like that.
Yeah.
There's a way to deal with it, and Glasgow University is very at the front of kind of pioneering this kind of research. When Voyager, the third book of Outlander, was published in I don't want to do it wrong, but I think 94 is the first time it was published. There was no academic research. So in my thesis, I basically say Outlander kind of foreshadows this research by saying this. I don't know if Diana found the actual information that this has happened, or if this was her taking an educated guess. And I find it very interesting that, do you know, Claire's friend Galus, she's a slavery owner. And the plantation that she's at is called Rose Hall. Rose Hall is an actual plantation. So there's records about them, but at no point was it owned by anybody called Abernathy, which is Galus's last name at that point. So it's this fictionalized owner of a real plantation, and what is happening there other than maybe Galus, I don't know, bathing in blood, that's maybe taking it a bit too far, right? But things that are happening in the series could potentially really have happened in this actual spot. So I was, well, both delighted when I found out that this plantation exists, but also really sad.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I mean, Diana must have done so much work and so much research just with the timing of everything and the history that goes into it. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, just so many books, and I would imagine as a historian, you can appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm a big fan of a theory called the death of the author. Basically, you just take the text. It doesn't matter what the author says, because it really isn't relevant what Diana says Roger's specialty is, right? It doesn't change the text that you have in front of you. It's just an additional tidbit that you like.
Right.
There's additional books that Diana has written. So the Outlandish Companions, they're called. They're amazing. You can get lots of new information about how she writes her characters, which ones are fictionalized characters, which ones are real historical figures. This is all great additional information. But for me, to say why Outlander is relevant has nothing to do with her as an author. And the entire time while I was writing, for me, it wasn't relevant if she would like what I was doing. Because at some points, I have to call her out and say, there's a mistake here that is affecting what people believe about, I don't know, Bonnie Prince Charlie or something like that. Even though that was a TV show, not her. But it's one of the comments I got the most from my supervisors, on the side in my Word document. It was, Diana is not your friend, was one. And the other one was, Jamie is not a real person. And I was like, yes, I know. But, because sometimes you say, Jamie does this or decides to do this. And then it's the author that decided this for a specific reason. The character has to act that way. And you need to kind of learn how to write this. And yeah, I'm glad she likes what I did. I'm not sure if she did read my PhD thesis at this point. I've emailed it to her, but 280 pages is a long document to read. So far, she's not said it was absolute crap.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a positive then. No news is good news. Right. Now that the final season of Outlander is out, how are you feeling about the books and series being over? Although, there's another book coming, right? I feel like you kind of graduated at a historic time for Outlander.
Yeah, I think for some reason, for me, things fall into place like puzzle pieces. The fact that I went to Inverness and watched Outlander, that was the first step. I arrived in Inverness the very first time that I've ever been to Scotland. I remember stepping off the little staircase off the plane, put my foot on the ground, and I was like, yep, I'm right. This is where I belong.
Wow.
And it was this really strong feeling, and I don't know where it came from. It's never happened to me again. It was just yep, I'm happy here. And I wasn't even there for 2 seconds, right? So it was incredible. A really weird feeling. I got my room at the student accommodation, the only room that had unimpeded view towards Culloden battlefield. Every other room in the flat had a building in front of it. I could see it was behind the hill, so I saw the hill kind of thing, but nobody else did. That was my room. And I never even realized this until years later, that this was the only room that had this kind of feature. And I just loved looking out that direction. And that's what kind of my whole life kind of feels like at the moment as well. I'm not saying that I didn't work really hard to get where I am. And like, I can acknowledge that now. But every single time when I was like crying about like getting bad feedback, which wasn't even bad, they just said you need to change it. They didn't say the first draft was perfect kind of thing. But I would always kind of go like, oh, I'll never do anything with this. This is never going to happen, whatever. And then it just kind of like pieces fell into place. It was, I'm going to graduate this year. Then I get told Diana's going to be there. Then I get told our book's coming out just a month after that. And the fact that she agreed to do a video with me, that kind of started the whole social media. Like within, I think like 3 days, I had like 500 followers, and it was crazy how fast it went up. I'm not at like a massive amount now. It's like just over 2,000, but there's 2,000 people that want to listen to what I say about a factual thing and not watching me do silly dances or something, which means a lot to me that people trust me to be their like resident historian or something.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, and it's just like everything kind of keeps going. There's been big discussions with obviously my parents. Is social media really something that you should be doing? You've worked hard, you've paid study fees to get a doctorate. Why not stay in uni? And I'm like, I would love to be a university professor, but there's very limited places that are available for people. There's a lot more people that graduate than there is positions at a university.
Right.
So I'm doing a very like, it's like a, I think 20% position at uni, which is, I've done it for the past 4 years, and it's always a 1 year limited contract. So I'm still waiting to hear, can I do it next academic year?
Right.
But it's all kind of, I'm kind of feeling really positive about it because everything has fallen into place for me. If the uni thing doesn't work out, maybe it's a different uni. Maybe I'm going to create the Diana Gabaldon Society or something. When she passes eventually, which is something we have to be aware of because she is in her mid-70s. So it's not like, she's not my age, let's say it like that. So we have to think about the fact, what happens if she passes before she finishes the book? What happens if she passes and she's just this year announced that all of her notes and research material will go to a university in Texas. I think it's Texas A&M it's called.
Yeah.
And that's like, I'm going to be the first on the plane to have a look at this and see, what did she actually find out? What did she do? Did she make a note to herself and say like, this is all rubbish, I don't need this or something? Or did she say like, this is brilliant, maybe for a later book or something? So I definitely like, that's one of the things I still want to do. I want to dig into her brain without her there. Because if I ask her, she can mediate it. If I just look at what's on the paper, right, it's just what I get. So if I go to her and say like, hey, when you did this, did you understand it that way? And she can say yes, even if she didn't. But her notes of the time might be saying something else. Right. So I don't think that Outlander is over. With the series kind of ending now, I think there's 3 more episodes to come out. And then we have a second series of the spin-off series, Blood of My Blood, about Jamie and Claire's parents. Mm-hmm. That comes out sometime in fall.
Excited.
I'm so excited. I'm not sure if there will be a 3rd season. It's not really been announced yet how many more they're doing. But like I said, Lord John is another option, another spin-off series. And then really, people are not going to stop traveling. You've already got plans for 2027, right?
Yeah.
People might only now be finding out about Outlander, and then they're traveling in 2028 or something. So I don't think that it's going to, there won't be like a sharp decline. I think it'll stay at a really high level of tourism to Scotland for at least 5 years. I'm probably going to be at least. I'm really confident to say it's probably 10 to 15 years that we can be sure, because Braveheart came out in 1990 and that still brings people in. And there's still untapped markets, like the Asian market hasn't really shown that much interest in Outlander. So I don't know where it's shown and where it's not shown, but I think there's more to come for that. And then we get to kind of explore how other cultures that are not Anglophone cultures that we easily understand because they're like our own culture, how are they going to experience Scotland and what are they interested in seeing and all that. So I really I don't think there's any end. So it's interesting that you phrased it like now that it's over, or like the final season's over. Maybe I'm going to be really bold and say Outlander's never over. Like you can't escape it.
I feel like it's time travel. Can't be over, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Jane Austen wrote her books, 250 years ago, and I'm still there are a lot of Jane Austen fans, still doing tourism because of Jane Austen. So I feel like,
Yeah.
it really is endless.
I met my best uni friend in a course on Jane Austen. So every year for like our birthdays, we give each other Jane Austen themed things. So I have like a
Oh,
coloring book and I gave her playing cards and stuff. She's getting married this summer, so I'm gonna have to find something Jane Austen related to
I
like bring
love
along for
that.
that.
I love that. Oh, that's adorable. It's
So
brought a lot of people together for me, obviously.
yeah,
And I think Outlander will do the same and continue to do the same. And I think you're right about the
yeah,
Asian
and
markets as well. There's a huge, like Anne of Green Gables. I don't know if you know this, but in Japan, I think it was after World War II, Anne of Green Gables became like hugely popular there. There was even like a theme park, and so they get a
oh
lot
my
of
God,
Japanese tour. Yeah, they get a lot of Japanese tourists at PE Island, and so it's just interesting what travels and what doesn't, and how long it takes to get there,
yeah.
and it's kind of fascinating. So it'll be interesting to
There's
see.
a there's a show called The Monarch of the Glen that gets shown, I think, around Christmas time or something in Australia. And you can literally see a spike in visitors after that has aired. You can see a spike in visitors from Australia to Scotland.
That's
So
so
I think
interesting.
that's what's going to happen with Outlander. Like it's going to simmer down a little bit. But obviously, once tourism simmers down, things get cheaper because you want to keep the people coming. And then if it's
Right,
cheaper, people are going to come
people will
again. So
come.
it's kind of
Yeah,
this like tumbling sensation. And yeah, it's a snowball that can't be stopped, I think.
yeah, I love that. Okay, is there a book, fiction or nonfiction, that you think every Outlander fan should read alongside the series to deepen their understanding of the history? What should be on my reading list for
Well,
my tour?
obviously our book that we wrote. It's like I
Obviously.
think it's a very I think books like ours are very easy to read because the chapters are I think it's like 2 to 3,000 words is roughly what we were given as the maximum amount we can write. So you can read one chapter that you find really interesting and then not read the next one or something. So if you're only
Right.
interested in translations, you read my chapter. If you're interested in heritage stuff, you read the one that I wrote with two friends. If you just want to read something that Diana said, you read the Diana chapters kind of thing. So I think books like those are really good if you're not well, maybe not brave enough, but like if you're not feeling like getting a really big old book and kind of get into that and make your way from cover to cover. Saying that, there are great books that you can read from cover to cover. One of the books I really like is called "Damn Rebel Bitches" or "Damn Rebels" something, and it's about the women of the 45. So the Jacobite rebellion with like really cool women that did something. It came out in 2000, and the author is called Maggie Craig. I want to say.
I'm gonna look it
Um,
up.
I I know her personally, but I only know her as Maggie. So the book might be is either Rebel Bitches or Damn Rebel Bitches. So it's definitely like it's a controversial book title.
Oh, Damn
Um,
Rebel Bitches, The Women of the 45 by Maggie Craig.
yes, exactly. So I think that's like a great book to kind of get into it. If you're looking for like a more like something of the time of Outlander or just after, it's called Derek's Letters from the North of Scotland. It's like you can get it in like bookshops, and it's from 1730. And this guy Edmund Burt was sent to Scotland to basically send travel letters back and say like this is what it's like. So he talks really badly about how people wear kilts and like they're not clean and they're so he kind of perpetuates this idea of the barbarians in the Highlands, which I think is quite fun to read at times. Like if you want to try out something like this,
What's it
um,
called again?
this is what Bert's Letters from the North of
Bert's
Scotland.
Letters. Okay, I'm putting them all on my TBR.
Yeah,
This is good. I haven't heard of either
and
of
then
these.
let me see what else is there that's like really cool. I mean, I've got loads of different ones. Like there's lots of writing about travel to Scotland because of literature. But obviously nothing about Outlander. That's one of the things that I find really interesting. Usually any research ends kind of in the 90s about like historical fiction, starting literary travel, and then Outlander isn't mentioned. And we can
Interesting.
really only track Outlander, like visitors to Inverness, kind of after the TV show was released. But surely
Right.
there were people that read it in the 90s and then traveled, but they weren't surveyed. So there was no place where they could like tick or like on an iPad or something go like,
Right.
yep, I'm here because of Outlander kind of thing. So as much as we have data now, this is all mostly based on the TV series. And I don't know if you can make a difference between readers and viewers because everybody
Right.
kind of tends to at some point watch the show because you want to know what they made of it or something.
Exactly. Yeah, and
Um,
I'll link those all in the show notes too, so people can find those books. Those are great. Okay, last
yeah.
question. If you could time travel to any moment in Scottish history through the stones, where would you go? Even if it was just for a
Right.
day and you got to
So
go
if
right
I
back home.
could if I get to go in like my winter boots and a big
Yeah.
jacket, get to take my glasses and lactase pills and all that
In the
along with me.
summer, in the summertime.
Exactly. Something like if it's like an enjoyable. There's a great book series called um St. Mary's Institute or something, which is literally about historians using a time travel machine to go to
Ooh,
places and observe history taking place. I think there's 18 books or something. I've read them all. I
sounds
raced through
fun.
them, loved them. And that's what I want to do. I want like a little kind of capsule that I can go in, travel somewhere, and then kind of watch it without being in the way.
Yeah.
Ideally, it'd be invisible because obviously, if you have an observer there, you behave differently. So I'd be an invisible time traveler that gets to take like a notepad and stuff. And the thing I really want to see is everyday life because we have so much record about the Battle of Culloden or what happens when people are executed or something. I just want to see a normal family. Like, how are they living? Is the dad abusive? Is there a great romance story? And obviously that would only be like a snapshot, just as much as you can only get a snapshot of like a family nowadays.
Right.
But I would love to go for like a week straight, watch a different family interact. And if I was forced to partake in society, I would want to go two times. I would want to go as a man once and as a woman the other time, because I think there's a lot to say about what people think of women's lives and what actually happened. I'm very convinced that not every woman was suppressed by her husband and whatnot. Like when you get to like the episodes you haven't seen in Outlander yet, this isn't a spoiler for season 8, but at some point somebody says like, if you should be aware of all people how much a wife can convince her husband like what to do. And I think that is very true. I think women had a lot more power than we give them, but it wasn't necessarily recorded that way. So that's what I want to see. I want to see the nitty gritty of everyday life. I want to see them use a chamber pot. I want to see them like figure out how to deal with their period. I don't know. I want to know like if everybody's in the same room, how do you have marital relations with like the kids in
Right.
the room as well, right? What do you do? Do you like go away into a different corner? Do you care? Was there anything such as like protecting kids from those seeing those things? Was it just
Right.
everyday life? All this kind of stuff. And yeah.
That's a
And then
fantastic answer.
I would love to bring something modern back, something like chewing gum or something. Do you know, like something that
Yeah.
doesn't change like the time, but just go like, hey, eat this, but don't swallow it. We just keep it in our mouths because I don't think it makes any sense to people. Even though
Right.
saying that the Romans did have chewing gum, so it's not like everything we have now has never existed. Maybe knowledge
Right.
was just lost.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. I always yeah, thought it would be a fun book series to like if you did take something back and then to track to
Mm.
see how like okay, I brought chewing gum back in time and here's how it affected the rest of the world. I'm really
Yeah.
interested in like alternate history things like
Right.
I'm just watching For All Mankind, which is like if
Right.
Russians landed on the moon first, and like
Mm.
alternate history, or like Man in the High Castle, if
Yeah.
like Germany had won the war, like what would the world be like? I'm
Yeah,
always interested
I
in
think
that.
that
So.
is, there's a lot of that in fan fiction, which is something that
Hmm.
Diana personally doesn't like. I have never read any Outlander fan fiction because it just doesn't appeal to me. And also, I don't want to confuse my brain with what is
Right.
actually in the books and what others say. But Harry Potter fan fiction, I ate that up when I was a teenager. That was amazing because you can do so much with characters you already know. And that's kind of the alternate
Hmm.
universe kind of situation. And I think that's all we want. That's probably like a good thing to end on. We really want to understand where we come from and how things affect our lives. That's why so many people that have some sort of Scottish heritage want to come back to Scotland and see where their family potentially is from, because knowing your past helps you understand your present and your future. And I think that's why we need literary scholars, we need historians to make sense of everything that is happening now in relation to what has happened before.
I love that. Well, thank you, Alex, Dr. Alex Dold. I really appreciate you taking the time, and it was such a fascinating conversation. You're such a fascinating person, and
Thank
I've
you.
known you online for a couple of months, maybe a year now, and it's been so fun to get to know you and talk with you in person. Do you want to just tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and Facebook. On Facebook, it's Alex Dold Historian. So it's a page you can follow. You can't message me there though, that like the system doesn't allow it. So if you do want to message, you can send me an email, alexdoldhistorian@gmail.com. No dots or anything in between my name. But on Instagram, it's alex.dold.historian. It usually works if you just type Doctor of Outlander as well, because that's in my bio. I'm the only
Cool.
person that uses that. So that's probably the easiest way.
I did want to ask you, I forgot, this was one of my questions in my head. Did you go to the university specifically and say, can I specifically have this title, like Doctor of Outlander? Or how did that
Um,
happen?
no, so the title kind of came about with, well, again, my dad saying, "Do you really want to be the Doctor of Outlander?" And I remember getting so angry about that and was like, "It's not even my dad, my own dad can see the value in what I'm doing. How am I gonna like explain it to other people?" So I was really, really conflicted. I'm also my birth name is Alexandra, so I publish as Alexandra. And had lots of thoughts about, do I want to be Alex, which is what everybody calls me, because I don't want to be perceived as a man. My research
Hmm.
is influenced by who I am as a woman and how I'm writing, what I'm looking at, what I find interesting. Like Claire is a lot more interesting to me than Jamie is, probably because I relate to her a lot more. So all the whole like name situation was a massive kind of headache for me throughout the entirety of my studies. And then I did an interview at my graduation with like the social media team of the uni, and they wanted to put it on social media. And I said like jokingly, kind of like, haha, I'm like the Doctor of Outlander now. And the way they cut it together, it's the first sentence of that video. And I was like, oh wow, okay, I wasn't actually going to call myself that. I thought this was a joke. So it was kind of like working together. And then people have started picking up, and I'm a lot like I'd much rather be Doctor of Outlander than Dr. Alex. Like Dr. Alex reminds me of Dr. Phil, right? Like I'm not
Yeah.
like a weird like I'm not doing this kind of like TV show situation where I have to have my title but also my first name. So either call me Alex or Dr. Dold, because I don't think the doctor and the first name kind of fits together really well. It's very flattering when people message me using the title, and like I worked bloody hard for that. So I will
Yeah.
rub it into people's faces. But also like Doctor of Outlander is just something that sticks in people's heads. But
Yeah,
as you've noticed,
absolutely.
like my Instagram handle isn't Doctor of Outlander because I don't want to be reduced just that on just that. I'm a literary scholar first and foremost,
Hmm.
with a historian kind of on the side, and I want to talk about all books. Like I do a book recommendation Sunday where I like take a picture of a book that I enjoy in some sort of way. It can be fiction or it can be useful for my research, because I just want people to see that you're not just one thing. You can be the Doctor of Outlander, but you can also be a literary scholar. And I'm also an aunt, and all these things like is what makes me up.
Love that. That was great. Thank you so much, Dr. Alex Dold, Doctor of
Perfect.
Outlander. Thanks so much for listening to the Brit Lit Book Club. If you're enjoying the show, please take a moment to leave a review. It truly helps us reach more British literature lovers just like you. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find us on Instagram at The Book Club Tour, and head to our website, thebookclubtour.com, to see upcoming book club tours. Well, my tea's getting cold, so until next time, keep reading and stay curious.